The annual Vasant Vyakhyanmala of Pune has a countrywide repute as a platform for high-level intellectual discussion on many a vital aspect of our life. Time and again, leading thinkers of the country have been pouring out their thoughts and experiences from that platform. 1974 was its centenary year. The 8th of May was an important day in the lecture series of that year. The speaker on that day was Shri Balasaheb Devras, the Sarasangachalak of Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangha. Social equality and Hindu consolidation was the subject of his speech. Both the speaker as well as the subject had aroused intense curiosity among the intelligentsia of Pune. As the following pages will bear out, Sri Balasaheb Devras has analyzed the multifaceted, complicated problem of our social disparities in a most lucid and dispassionate manner and offered constructive solutions. He has presented the correct perspective of the past, the proper guidelines for the present, and the right vision for the future. After the speech, he also answered in his inimitable,
Immit-
disarming,
Imitable.
हाँ, inimitable, disarming style. The ticklish question मतलब अनुकरणीय मतलब जिसको इमिटेट ना कर पाए
Mhm.
कोई दूसरा. The ticklish questions which were posed by the audience. These living thoughts, coming from one who has selflessly dedicated himself for over 4 decades to the cause of Hindu consolidation, will undoubtedly prove a beacon light for all those who are interested in building up a
Homogeneous.
homogeneous and glorious national life. It is in the spirit of doing our humble best in disseminating these invaluable thoughts that we are placing this publication in the hands of our thinking brethren in the society, publishers, Suruchi Sahitya, Social and Equality and Hindu Consolidation. The organizers of this program had suggested some topics for my speech. Out of them, I have chosen the topic social equality and Hindu consolidation as it has a very vital bearing on the future of our nation. Hindu consolidation is a must for the welfare of the nation. Hence, all aspects of it are important. Even among them, the aspect of social equality, being a delicate and currently relevant one, appealed to me as one of great import. That is why I thought that I should not miss the opportunity of expressing my views on it. I do not claim to be one among the thinkers and scholars of the society, but I have moved much among our people. That has given me many experiences and ideas, and also a peep into the feelings of the people. Keeping all of them in view, I shall try to place before you what all of us might be feeling. Who is a Hindu? While broaching this subject, the first question that naturally possesses itself before us is, who is a Hindu? Many definitions of the word Hindu have been forwarded, but none of them appears to be perfect, since even every one of them, however carefully worded, suffers from the defect of being either too short, avyapti, or too much expansive, ativyapti. But can we deny the very existence of the Hindu society just because it defies definition? Although the word cannot be defined, we all know very well that the Hindu society does exist, and all of us do have a definite and common understanding as to who constitute this society. Some years ago, the government formulated the Hindu Code, which was approved by the parliament. Pandit Nehru and Dr. Ambedkar were the main architects of the code. In order to make the code applicable to the largest society in this country, they had to perforce name it the Hindu Code. While defining its scope of applicability, they had to declare in the beginning that all except the Muslims, the Christians, the Parsis and the Jews come under its purview, and that it was applicable to Sanatanis, Lingayats, Arya Samajis, Jains, Sikhs, and Buddhists, and even others who did not come under any of these categories. It was also made clear that anyone seeking exemption from it will have to bear the onus of justifying such an exemption. The only comprehensive term which could denote the people whom they had in mind was Hindu, the twofold bias. We want to organize or consolidate all the Hindus. Organization does not merely mean a crowd, a front, or a meeting. Organization implies bringing and keeping the people together and making them realize the purpose for their remaining together. This is no easy task. We will have to furnish some basis for it. And some of those basic factors of unity will have to be necessarily emotional in content because the constitution of the human mind is such. Therefore, we start with our motherland. This is our motherland and we are its children. As we have been living here for the past thousands of years, during this long past, we have created in this land a glorious history and also contributed to world thought, culture, and civilization. We alone have been responsible both for its rise and for its fall. Therefore, we, being the children of this soil, must come together and live together. These realizations should form the emotional basis of our unity. Even those who call themselves rational will have to accept such an emotional basis. There is nothing wrong in it. Even Stalin has to remind his compatriots that they all belong to a single great nation. When Russia faced a terrible ordeal during the Second World War, he had to invoke the spirit of nationalism and fatherland. The necessity of such an emotional inspiration is beyond controversy. However, will this suffice? While actually working in the social field, we feel it necessary that there should also be a practical manifestation of this basis. It is, of course, essential that everyone must emotionally feel that we are all one and that we are all equal, but at the same time, we should also be able to experience naturally and always this oneness in our day to day life. So long as we do not have this living experience alongside the emotional call, the basis of our unity will neither be robust nor long standing. The folly is ours. Our history of the past hundreds of years tells us that just a handful of Muslims and even fewer Englishmen could rule over us and could forcibly convert many of our brethren to their religions. They also created controversies like Brahmin and non Brahmin, Savarna and Asprusha. In this regard, we cannot just blame the foreigners and exonerate ourselves. What is the use of lamenting that it was because of our contact with foreigners and their divisive machinations that our unity was shattered? It was but inevitable that we should sooner or later come into contact with the foreign societies and their cultures. There could not forever be a Berlin Wall between them and us. It is only the diffident people afraid of the contacts and thoughts of others that put up a wall around themselves. The greatness of any system is proved only when it can hold its head high even while it is in contact with others. When a system encloses itself in an impenetrable shell, it is only declaring its own inferiority. Hence, instead of blaming others for our shortcomings, we should introspect within ourselves and try to know which of our fallings feelings enabled the foreigners to get the better of us. In this regard, Dr. Hedgewar, the founder of the RSS, had a unique outlook. Whenever this topic arose, he used to say we cannot escape our responsibility by simply blaming the Muslims and the Europeans for our downfall. We must seek out our own feelings. We have to admit that social inequality amongst us has been a reason for our downfall. Vociferous tendencies like caste and subcaste rivalries and untouchability have all been the manifestations of this social inequality. Discriminate. For the Hindu Sangathanists, this is a delicate and difficult issue since we are immensely proud of our dharma and our sanskriti. It is true that we have a lot of things of which we can be justly proud. The philosophy and values of life of this land have received the highest acclamation of the thinkers the world over as an invaluable contribution to peace and progress of humanity itself. These values of life have stood the test of time in the race of long drawn out onslaughts and amidst historical and political upheavals. We all naturally feel that these eternal life principles should be preserved. However, it is clear that even while cherishing this pride, it would not do to think that all that is old is gold. Puranamityeva na sadhu sarvam. Just because something is old, it need not necessarily be good or eternal or gospel truth. Neither should we think that since we have been living all these years on the basis of these old principles, we need not even think on new lines. तातस्य कूपोऽयमिति ब्रुवाणाः क्षारं जलं कापुरुषाः पिबन्ति. My father and great and grandfather dug this well. The water was salty, but they drank it and lived on. Hence, we shall also drink the same water. Such bigotism does nobody any good. The saying speaks of such a person not as Sat Purusha, good person, but as Ka Purusha, coward. Such a way of thinking is wrong. The society is made up of various types of people. There will be some who there will be some who will jump at any new thing as good and ideal. Some others react to any new thing adversely and reject it outright as being useless and worthless. But those who have taken up the mission of eradicating the social defects and reorganizing the society should not take up either of these extreme attitudes. They have to adopt the attitude of Santah Parikshanyat Tarat Bhajante. They will have to discriminate, preserve, and take up whatever is worthy and feel not sorry for the dying out of things which are to die. The more our people adopt this rational way of looking at things, sooner will the mission of Hindu consolidation and removal of illegality be fulfilled. Reform in keeping with times. For instance, the Jews have, according to a book I recently read, reviewed their religious texts and practices after every century or two and revalued them in the contemporary context. Of course, the wordings of the religious texts could not be changed, but fresh interpretations were placed on them in keeping with the times. These they introduced in practice and made popular also. It means they discriminated between what was eternal and what was changeable. I believe that in our own country too, similar rethinking and revaluation of our religious texts must have been done in the olden times. Otherwise, there is no reason why so many different types of religious books, smritis, should have come into existence. See how many changes have taken place even in our gods and goddesses. The Indra, Varuna, Agni, and other gods have given place to Vishnu and Shiva. There was at one time conflict between Shaivas and Vaishnavas, but Sri Shankaracharya established a harmony between the two and ushered in the puja of the Panchayatana. And now Shivaratri and Shayani Ekadashi and Prabodhini Ekadashis are being observed in almost every house. It means that even in olden times, efforts were made from time to time to establish harmony and bring in new interpretations, and that people were not insistent about sticking to every word and syllable of all that is old, a common human weakness. There are many stories recounted in the ancient texts and Puranas, but do we accept them all as literally true? For instance, it has been said in the Purana that the lunar and solar eclipses are a result of Rahu and Ketu swallowing the moon and the sun. But should we, in order to affirm our devotion to our old religious texts, incorporate this story in the school textbooks to explain to the children why the eclipses take place? We are bound to give intent books only what is scientific and factual. It is not peculiar to only Hindu society that religious texts are understood by the letter, and texts of story or stories therein believed in blind faith. In 1925, a thrilling court case took place in America, the trial that rocked the world. Reader's Digest, July 1962. A country believed to be most scientific in outlook. A teacher in one of the states was placed in the dock. He was charged by a Christian citizen with teaching the theory of evolution in contravention of the stories of Genesis and creation of man as told in the Bible. The teacher had taught in the light of the latest theory of evolution. The court declared him guilty and he was punished. However, today no Christian gives credence to that story of evolution in the Bible, but still they have not tried to destroy their faith in the Bible. This may appear strange, but has a great lesson for us. Spirit eternal, forms ever new. Such problems are common to all countries. Solutions must be found for them. Whenever I speak like this, some people say that these are things created by God. It is their intention, perhaps, to impress upon us the idea that such things cannot be changed or amended because they are created by God. But how far can this argument stand? God Himself has declared, whenever Dharma declines and I reincarnate myself. However, the re-establishment of Dharma after its decline does not mean that the old order will be re-established without any change whatsoever. Nobody in our country, like Muhammad Paigambar, has ever said, I am the last prophet. So it is but proper that we should rethink how far it is right to assert that this is the word of God and hence unchangeable. The re-establishment of Dharma can only mean that the same eternal life principles will be preserved while its expressions and manifestations will change, and these changes we must be prepared to welcome. We should also be able to think clearly and without bias regarding the genesis of the systems which came into vogue in those old days. हाँ बोलना है कुछ?
नहीं नहीं सॉरी सॉरी ये ऑन है
देयर इज नहीं रुक सकते हो कुछ मतलब कमेंट या इलेबरेट
नहीं
करना है तो
नहीं कुछ नहीं मुझे
देयर
मालूम
इज
नहीं था ये ऑन है करके
हाँ नहीं कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं ठीक है देयर इज नो रीजन टू थिंक दैट आवर ancestors has no insight into things and that they have set up the systems arbitrarily or in ignorance. We must keep in mind the fact that the thinkers and leaders of society of those times considered the needs of the society under those conditions and laid down suitable norms to ensure its solidarity and progress. In case those systems are unnecessary or no longer useful at present, we are free to reject them, but it is necessary that we should also understand why a particular system was introduced in a particular period of time. Take for instance the Varna Vyavastha. It is said that there was no Varna Vyavastha in olden times. Later on, it was felt that some system was necessary to ensure the proper and steady progress of society. The leaders of society at that time thought that the society could progress only if four kinds of functions were properly and efficiently executed. Hence, the society was classified into four groups depending upon the specific propensities and aptitudes of individuals and groups of individuals. Thus, the Varna system was evolved. Any system entitles classification. However, this system did not envisage any differences in the status of the people belonging to the different groups. Classification is one thing and class discrimination is another. According to some scholars, the classification in the beginning was also not hereditary, but as time went on, it must have become increasingly difficult to recognize and classify aptitudes in an extensive society residing in such a vast stretch of country and having no means of quick transport or communication. Under such a situation, birth is a particular family in a particular family must itself have been taken as the indication of his aptitudes and as a basis for classifying a person or a group of persons. That is how the growth of the Varna system must have taken place. But even at that time, there were no superiority or inferiority complexes. On the other hand, the whole society was visualized as a single living entity personified into a magnificent figure with 1,000 heads, 1,000 eyes, and 1,000 feet. Sahasra Purusha, Sahasraksha, Sahasrapat. Such a glorious concept does not permit the perverse and ridiculous notion that the thighs are superior to the feet, the hands are superior to the thighs, or the head is superior to the hands. The idea is that all these limbs are equally essential for the proper functioning of society. The sense of high and low that we witness today has no place in this concept of one corporate living social entity. To imagine otherwise would be to do grave injustice to those people. It was for this reason that the system was acceptable to one and all, and it was because of its common acceptance that certain systems of checks and balances were evolved to continue it from generation to generation. For example, the group endowed with the intellectual power was to embrace poverty. The group with ruling power was denied wealth power. The power of state and of wealth was not allowed to combine in the same group. So long as these checks and balances were efficiently maintained, the system worked well, but defects crept in the system when these checks and balances were ignored in course of time. इसके बारे में मतलब ये जो एक्सप्लेन किया है उन्होंने वो डिवीजन ऑफ पावर है। मतलब जब फ्रेंच वो सिद्धांत ये करते तो उनको प्रोग्रेसिव माना जाता है। और मतलब इसका समर्थन नहीं कर रहा हूँ इस जाति भेद का, पर जब हमारे सोसाइटी ने वो ट्राई किया तो वो बेसिकली ठीक से नहीं हुआ लगता है। Defects are bound to creep into any system. It is well known that communism aimed at the removal of all types of inequalities, particularly the classes, but Milovan Djilas, a top communist leader of Yugoslavia, in his famous book The New Class, has written that a new class has come up in all communist countries. He has to say this of the communist system within less than 50 years of its inception, a system which was avowedly born to do away with all classes. Human nature is such, vested interests develop in any system. The Varna system too was no exception to this human weakness, and as a result it became distorted and it collapsed, but none can say that the originators of the system had any such perverse intentions in their mind when they introduced it. Limitations of
एक
heredity.
मिनट,
हाँ
मुझे इस पे कुछ एक ऑब्जर्वेशन करना है कि
हाँ हाँ बताओ
जैसे
ना।
यहाँ पे क्लासिफिकेशन की जो बात की, ये इसने कम्युनिस्ट लीडर ने भी बोला, इसका मुझे थोड़ा साइंटिफिक अप्रोच इसलिए लगता है क्योंकि क्लासिफिकेशन होना किसी भी सोसाइटी में, किसी भी स्पीशीज में, ये एक बिल्कुल नेचुरल चीज है। अगर आप बेसिक साइंस भी अगर किसी ने पढ़ा है तो वो मधुमक्खी को अगर आप स्टडी करो तो उसमें भी एक क्वीन बी होती है, वर्कर बी होती है। तो वर्कर बी जो होती है वो सिर्फ जाके नेक्टर इकट्ठा करती है, क्वीन बी जो होती है वो सिर्फ एक्स की तरफ देखती है। तो उसी तरह आप देखो बाकी स्पीशीज में भी, जैसे जो एप्स है, बंदर है, उनका भी एक एक झुंड होता है, उसमें वो किसी और को घुसने नहीं देते हैं, उनकी भी एक क्लास हायरार्की होती है। तो मुझे लगता है कि कोई भी स्पीशीज में क्लास हायरार्की होना नेचुरल है, इसको ना हेय दृष्टि से देखने की जरूरत नहीं है। लेकिन अगर ये गलत टर्न ले ले, अगर इसको ऑर्गेनाइज नहीं किया और डिस्क्रिमिनेशन हो जाए तो वो गलत बात है। इसके ऊपर मैं मत जानना चाहूंगा। लो।
रीजनेबल लगता है, मतलब मुझे जो आपने बोला कि मतलब
हाँ
जीन्स तो सेम ही होते हैं ना, कि वो वर्कर भी हो या ये वाला क्वीन भी हो, एंड कॉलोनी में भी स्पीसी तो
हाँ।
सेम ही, क्योंकि वो एक मतलब क्वीन बी के पेट से ही बाकी सब वर्कर्स आए। वो कुछ कोई अलग स्पीसी है ऐसा नहीं कुछ।
नहीं
इस पे
आए तो।
मतलब मैंने
हाँ
मतलब एक स्टडी पढ़ा था कि मतलब जो लोग यूजुअली लॉटरी खेलते हैं, जब वो लॉटरी जीतते हैं उनके पास पैसे आ जाते हैं, तो ऐसा नहीं कि वो पैसे को वाइजली यूज करते हैं, वो लोग उसको खराब से यूज करते हैं एंड पैसा
हाँ।
खत्म हो जाता है। तो मतलब मेरा पॉइंट ये है कि मान लीजिए हमने वेल्थ डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन किया, हमने मुकेश अंबानी से पैसा लिया, अदानी से पैसा लिया एंड काइंड ऑफ एक क्लासलेस सोसाइटी बना दिया कि सब लोग सेम है, सबके पास मान लीजिए 1 लाख रुपए हो गए। तो मुकेश अंबानी में कैपेबिलिटी है कि वो एक अल्फा मेल है, वो वापस उससे एक 100 करोड़ का बिजनेस बना लेगा। ऑन दी अदर हैंड इसके पास 1 लाख होगा, पता चला वो फिर जुआ खेल के या कुछ करके वो फिर गरीब हो जाएगा। तो आप कितना भी इसमें मतलब आदमी घुस के चाहे कि हम बैलेंस करें, एक मतलब वो हायरार्की ना बने, तो वो एक कैपेबिलिटी होता है, एक सब में वो होता है कि वो अपने आप ऑर्डर में आ जाते हैं। तो आई डोंट थिंक, तो मैं भी एग्री कर रहा हूँ इस बात से कि हायरार्की तो अपने आप बन ही जाएंगे, एक सुपीरियर रहेगा, बट हाँ डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं होना चाहिए, दैट इज इट।
लेकिन वही है कि कोई भी इवन बी के केस में भी या एंट के केस में भी जो हायरार्की है वो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बेस्ड है ना। वर्कर भी का एक
करेक्ट।
रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है।
हम्म।
और उसी तरह देखा जाए तो जो वर्ण व्यवस्था है ब्राह्मण क्षत्रिय शूद्र, सो एक एक उसमें सोचने वाली बात ऐसी है कि जो उस ब्रह्म सत्य के जितना करीब होता है वो उस लैडर के उतने ऊपर होता है। अब क्योंकि ब्राह्मण अपना पूरा लाइफ उसी को डेडिकेट करता है, क्योंकि उसका वो धंधा नहीं कर सकता, बिजनेस नहीं कर सकता, वो कमा नहीं सकता। तो उसकी जिम्मेदारी, उसकी सुरक्षा करने की जिम्मेदारी क्षत्रिय की हो जाती है। उसका उसको अन्न देना, उसको दीक्षा देना, इसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी वैश्य की हो जाती है। उसके
हम्म।
मंदिर गुरुकुल बनाना, इसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी शूद्र की हो जाती है, वो भी सेवा भाव जिसे कहते हैं। तो मुझे लगता है
करेक्ट।
कि ये सिस्टम काम करने का तरीका है। सोचने वाली बात ये है कि डिस्क्रिमिनेशन क्रीप हुआ कैसे, क्योंकि अब वो भी एक सोचने वाली
बर्थ
बात है
रेट।
हाँ, क्योंकि अशोका से पहले डिस्क्रिमिनेशन का क्या पुख्ता मिलता है मुझे भी नहीं मालूम, ये वर्धमान भाई ज्यादा अच्छे से बता पाएंगे। अ, लेकिन ये है कि ये वर्ण व्यवस्था, ये जो वर्णाश्रम है, ये उससे रिलेटेड है हमारा कास्ट 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 सिस्टम। तो क्या बोले, कास्ट तो खुद स्पेनिश वर्ड है, ये वर्ण व्यवस्था बोलना ही ठीक है।
इस पे जो जेनेटिक स्टडी है वो बोलते हैं कि 5th सेंचुरी से वो इंडोगैमी बहुत सॉलिडिफाई हो गया, उसके पहले मतलब इंटरकास्ट जो भी आप बोल रहे हैं,
हाँ
हर तरह
हाँ
का जेनेटिक्स मिंगलिंग था, हर लोग शादी कर रहे थे, नॉर्थ साउथ ऐसा
हाँ
मतलब कुछ वो था नहीं, पर 5th सेंचुरी से कुछ ऐसा हुआ कि काफी सॉलिडिफाई होना स्टार्ट हो गया, और फिर इस्लामिक टाइम में वो और सॉलिडिफाई हुआ, तो पता नहीं क्या
हाँ
हुआ उस
हाँ।
टाइम पे ऐसा।
अब कास्ट के अंदर, ऑल्दो मुझे वो कास्ट के अंदर शादी का एक मेरिट इसलिए भी दिखाई देता है क्योंकि उनका भी एक पॉइंट ये है कि अगर कोई, अगर जैसे विश्वकर्मा, मैं विश्वकर्मा हूँ, मेरी शादी किसी विश्वकर्मा लड़की से ही हो रही है, तो उसको उसको पता है बचपन से कि भाई हमारे घर में कैसे होता है। जैसे हम लोग लकड़ी का काम करते हैं, वुड कार्विंग का काम करते हैं, तो उसको मालूम है घर पे पूजा कैसे होती है, हमारा रहन सहन कैसा है, तो उस हिसाब से एडजस्ट करने में ईज़ी हो जाता है। तो बहुत सारे लोग जो इसको सपोर्ट करते हैं, कास्ट मैरिज को, तो उसमें भी मुझे ये पॉइंट लॉजिकल लगता है कि यार ये बात तो सही कह रहे हैं, लेकिन ये लॉन्ग टर्म में वो जीन में पूरा वो, जैसा आपने
जीन में
बोला,
हाँ डिफॉर्मिटी आ जाता है।
डिफॉर्मिटी आ जाएगी।
हम्म।
यस, दैट्स राइट।
हाँ वो फ्रिक्शन कम होता है मैरिजेस में, बट हाँ ये डिफॉर्मिटी वाला इशू हो जाता है, फिर पता नहीं।
वेदांत भाई, आगे।
हाँ, सिर्फ दो चीजें और ऐड करना चाहूंगा। एक तो मतलब ठीक है, मतलब जिनको क्या जातीय विवाह करना है उनको करने दो, पर जो उनके कम्युनिटी के दूसरे जाति में विवाह करे उनको मतलब बहिष्कृत मत करो, इतना एक है कि मतलब उनको
हाँ
जाति बाह्य मत कर दो। और दूसरा ऐसा है कि चाइना का, चीन का फ्लैग देखोगे आप, हम ध्वज, तो उसके ऊपर चार मतलब छोटे स्टार है। पांचवा बड़ा स्टार कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी को दर्शाता है, और चार छोटे स्टार किसको दर्शाते, तो टीचर्स, सोल्जर्स, वर्कर्स, और क्या, और कुछ तो रह गया वो उसको मतलब, तो एक प्रकार की वो भी वर्ण व्यवस्था नहीं है क्या अगर, पर उनको कभी कोई नहीं बोलेगा, मतलब क्योंकि
हाँ।
वो इंटरनली स्ट्रांग है, वो डिफेंड करते
हम्म।
हैं।
वैसे
मतलब
बाकी एशियन कंट्रीज में भी लोअर कास्ट है, आई थिंक जापान में भी एक कास्ट है जिसको लोअर कास्ट माना जाता है? जरा आप डिस्कस करो, मैं ढूंढ ढूंढ के बताता हूँ, मुझे ये पढ़ा था मैंने
तो
इसको।
मतलब ये ईस्टर्न सोसाइटीज को जनरली मोर सोशल, मतलब सोशल इन द सेंस पीयर प्रेशर, या
हाँ
और
ये
वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज को इंडिविजुअलिस्ट माना जाता है। तो इसलिए आप कह रहे हो क्या कि कास्ट का प्रभाव ईस्टर्न कंट्रीज में ज्यादा है?
नहीं, क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली तो जो ईस्टर्न कंट्री जिसको हम बोलते हैं उसका कहीं ना कहीं रूट तो इंडिया से ही है ना। क्योंकि जापानीज कल्चर भी आप देखो, उनके सभी गॉड्स, जापानीज सरस्वती होती है, देखिए अभी आपने।
हाँ सही बात है। तो मतलब कास्टिज्म भी उधर, अगर वो बोल दे कि इंडिया से आए तो हम मान ले गया।
मान सकते हैं, लाइक क्योंकि कौन सी तो एक, आई थिंक इंडोनेशिया वो एक कंट्री थी जो मनुस्मृति के अकॉर्डिंग रूल हो रही थी कुछ कुछ समय पहले। ये आपने बताया था मुझे कि ना, वर्धमान ने बताया था शायद मुझे, इंडोनेशिया में कुछ टाइम पहले तक, बिफोर द इस्लामिक इन्वेजन, वो अ, मनुस्मृति से चलता था। आई थिंक श्रीलंका भी है शायद।
कर सकते हैं ना, मतलब तो वो ओपन आर्किटेक्चर है। वो राजीव मल्होत्रा की बुक में एक्सप्लेन किया है कि ओपन आर्किटेक्चर है। अभी तुम नया सोसाइटी फॉर्म करने जाओ, सपोज आप राजा बन गए, ठीक है, कोई तो एक छोटे से द्वीप के, मलय पेनिनसुला में बहुत छोटे छोटे द्वीप है ना, तो आप
हम्म,
बन गए। तो आप अगर हिंदू राजा हो तो आपके पास तीन चार ऑप्शंस मिल जाते हैं कि एक स्मृति उठाओ, लॉ बुक के लिए बना बनाया सिस्टम है, जैसा हमने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बनाया। तो अंबेडकर जी ने क्या किया, पूरा दुनिया में के जो जो बड़े बड़े पहले से ही कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है, उधर से अच्छी अच्छी चीजें उठाना चालू कर दिया। तो उनको कॉपी करना बोलेंगे तो क्या हुआ, जो बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस है वो उन्होंने उठाई। वही 1000 साल पहले अगर कोई राजा आता है तो वो इधर उधर देखेगा और देखेगा कि इधर अपस्तंभ स्मृति है, मनुस्मृति है, नारद की स्मृति है, इतने से नारद मतलब वो सेंट थे नेपाल में, पर उनकी स्मृति है। तो वो क्यों वापस से बैठ के, हाँ वो तुझे कुछ बोल रहे, बनाएगा ना वो, कोई तो अडेप्ट कर लेगा जो बना बनाया है व्यवस्था।
हम्म। हाँ तो ये बुरा कामिन करके है। ये ये जापानीज लोगों के क्या बोलते हैं, कह सकते हो आप, लोअर कास्ट है, जैसे आप लिख सकते हो, who are believed to be descended from the members of pre-Meiji feudal class associated with kegare, such as executioners, undertakers, slaughterhouse workers, butchers, tanners, ये वही क्लास है। सो यहाँ जापान में भी है अनटचेबिलिटी। सो दिस इज जस्ट टू
जैसे
पुट ऑन द।
समुराई भी थे ना, तो वो ही सिर्फ करते थे कैरी स्वॉर्ड्स, बाकी आम पब्लिक को वो कैरी नहीं, मिलिट्रीलाइज होने नहीं देते थे। और जब ये आया मतलब 1800s में, जब गन्स बिन्स लाना चालू कर दिए, तो तभी भी वो समुराई वो डिसऑनरेबल मानते थे, खुद भी यूज नहीं करते थे और दूसरों को भी यूज करने नहीं देते थे गन्स डिफेंस के लिए।
अब वहां पे जबरदस्ती देते नहीं देते थे ये मुझे नहीं मालूम, ऐसा कुछ उन्होंने रूल वूल निकाला था, ऐसा ऐसा आप कह रहे हो
तो
सैमुराइज ने?
हाँ, समुराई बेसिकली जो वॉरियर कास्ट है उनकी, वो समुराई होती थी ना।
वो
तो
समझ गया
अगर
मैं।
कोई, हाँ तो अगर ये क्या बोलते हैं, द्वंद्व, ड्यूएल होता है,
हाँ
वो
हाँ
स्वॉर्ड
हाँ
से, स्वॉर्ड के फाइट में कोई बंदूक चलाने लगे, तो फिर
हाँ।
उनका पूरा सिस्टम ही ये हो गया ना, क्योंकि वो रिचुअल इसमें भी आते हैं ना, मतलब रिचुअल सेल्फ, अगर तुम हार गए तो वो सुसाइड भी रिचुअलिस्टिकली करते हैं कि मतलब,
हाँ, वो चाकू
हाँ
अपना तलवार घुसा देते थे, कटाना सोर्ड उनका।
हाँ हाँ,
अच्छा, हाँ हाँ। नहीं
कंटिन्यू
तो
करे क्या पढ़ना? हाँ,
हाँ ठीक है।
नहीं नहीं,
नहीं नहीं,
बोलो
मतलब
बोलो।
नहीं नहीं, मैं ये बोला था कि एक एक होता है कि बिल्कुल ही बैन कर देना कि भाई ब्राह्मण अगर यूज करे तो उसके उसके ऊपर फाइन लगा दो या उसको ऐसी सजा हो जाए। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, मैं जापानीज कॉन्टेक्स्ट पे बोल रहा हूँ। एक होता है कि भाई अंडरस्टैंडिंग हो जाना, साइलेंट अंडरस्टैंडिंग, कि भाई तुम ब्राह्मण हो, तुमको करने की जरूरत नहीं है, हम तुम्हारी रक्षा करेंगे। एक ये भी हो सकता है। तो ये दोनों में से क्या चीज हुआ है जापान में, ये मैं पूछ रहा था। कि सीधा बैन ही लगा दिया कि भाई इंटेलेक्चुअल क्लास जो है वो हथियार उठा ही नहीं सकता, उठाएगा तो इतना फाइन लग जाएगा, या एक
इंटेलेक्चुअल का
अंडरस्टैंडिंग।
प्रॉब्लम नहीं था उनको, जो सर्स थे, मतलब देखो उधर कैसा था, समुराई एक दूसरे को लड़ते थे, जैसे अपने इधर भी था कि दो क्षत्रिय एक दूसरे से लड़ रहे, तो जो फार्मर है वो अपना काम चालू रखता था, बाजू में
हाँ
लड़ाई चल रही, इसलिए वो अभी जैसा बाद में होने लगा कि घर में लॉक कर लो या गांव छोड़ के जाने लगा, वैसा नहीं
हाँ।
होता था, क्योंकि उसको बस जो कोई जीतेगा उसको ट्रिब्यूट पे करना है, चौथ 1/4 25% उसको पे करना है। ये इंडिया का बोल रहा हूँ। तो वैसा उधर सर्व्स को मतलब बैन था, सर्व मतलब जो फार्मर लोग थे उनको। और ये जो आपने बात की कि ब्राह्मण को मतलब आज तो ये वेपन्स रखना बैन था क्या, तो उसमें फिर दूसरे साइड है कि मतलब जो पाणिनि थे ना ग्रामरियन, उन्होंने
हाँ।
ग्रामर के वर्ड्स किए, तो उधर आयुध जीवी वर्ड यूज किया है ऐसे लोगों के लिए कि जो मतलब शस्त्र बना के बेच के अपना गुजारा करते हैं।
अच्छा। हाँ। ओके
तो
ओके।
वो उनको अगर आप क्लासिफाई करने जाए तो किधर करोगे, क्योंकि वो बेच रहे हैं खुद, मतलब इंटरनल यूज के लिए नहीं कर रहे, जो कोई पैसा देगा उसको वो बेच रहे हैं।
आई थिंक ऐसा एक क्लास राजपूतों में भी मतलब राजस्थान में है, जो मैंने सुना है, अब मुझे नहीं पता उनका कास्ट का नाम क्या है, बट वो हथियार बनाते थे मेवाड़ के लिए, मतलब मेवाड़ जो राजघराना है, तो वो आज भी लोग हैं वहाँ पे राजस्थान में। किसी को उनका नाम पता है क्या? वो लोहार कम्युनिटी से ही बिलोंग करते हैं, वो लोहार का ही एक सब कास्ट है। अ, लेकिन ऐसा राजस्थान में है ऐसा एक कास्ट जो हथियार बना के अपना पेट पालते हैं वैसा। ओके, वेदांत जी आगे बढ़िए।
किधर से पढ़ो?
लिमिटेशंस ऑफ
लिमिटेशंस ऑफ
हेरिडिटरी
हेरिडिटरी
एप्टीट्यूड्स।
aptitudes. Even though our ancestors classified the society on the basis of heredity, they were aware of the limitations of the inherited talents. In our old religious literature, such expressions are scattered all over. They said, Shudropi Shila Sampanno Gunavan Brahmano Bhavet. Brahmanopi Kriyahinah Shudrat Pratyavaro Bhavet. By his noble conduct, a Shudra can become a Brahmana, and a Brahman becomes a Shudra without that rectitude. और जात्या ब्राह्मण ब्राह्मण इति चेफ न, वन कैनॉट बिकम अ ब्राह्मण बिकॉज ऑफ बर्थ अलोन। ये सोर्सेस नहीं दिए इन्होंने, ठीक है चलो
ये
मान
भगवत
लेते।
गीता का है शायद
नहीं
ये
ना
ऊपर
सर।
वाला ये नहीं, ये ऊपर वाला शूद्रोपी वाला
नहीं सर।
ऐसा नहीं है क्या? क्योंकि
नहीं नहीं।
ऐसा एक गीता में भी आता है, यही वाला है या
गीता में तो दो बार मतलब रेफरेंस है वर्ण व्यवस्था का, तो एक बार ऐसा है कि गुण कर्म विभाग मतलब 4th चैप्टर में भगवान कृष्ण पूरी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी अपने ऊपर ले लेते हैं कि मया गुण और कर्म से चतुर्विधा, मतलब ये
हाँ
चातुर्वर्ण्य मैंने मेरे रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी। और लास्ट चैप्टर में वो क्या करते हैं, मतलब चारों वर्णों की टेंडेंसीज कैसी होती है जिससे आइडेंटिफाई किया जाए, ऐसा इन जनरल। मतलब कृषि गौरश्च वाणिज्य, मतलब कृषि गौरव मतलब एनिमल हस्बेंड्री, एग्रीकल्चर एनिमल हस्बेंड्री, और वाणिज्य ट्रेड, ये वैश्य का कर्म स्वभावजम है, मतलब जो नेचुरली स्वभाव से जो ये काम करता है उसे तुम वैश्य कह सकते हो। और मतलब ऐसा है वो, तो ये नहीं है उसमें ऐसा, मतलब
भगवत
कास्ट।
गीता, भगवत गीता 4th चैप्टर 13th वर्स पे भी शायद ऐसा कुछ लिखा है। मतलब ये मैंने कुछ टाइम पहले नोट डाउन किया था, मैं वहीं से पढ़ रहा हूँ, मुझे एग्जैक्टली श्लोक नहीं मालूम, बट
अच्छा
इसमें क्या
होटल।
भगवत गीता चैप्टर 4 वर्स नंबर 13, मनुस्मृति 10 चैप्टर 65 वर्स, शायद एक अथर्ववेद में भी है, मतलब इसी के रिलेटेड, सेम नहीं है। इसी के रिलेटेड कर्म बेस्ड वर्ण व्यवस्था।
अगली बार हम वो पढ़ेंगे, आपने नोट्स निकाले ना उधर से पढ़ेंगे ढूंढ ढूंढ के।
हाँ जी, नोट्स नहीं, सिर्फ एक दो चार रेफरेंस थे बस, और कुछ नहीं। चलो ठीक है,
अच्छा
आगे पढ़ लेते हैं।
चलो कंटिन्यू करते हैं। वन कैनॉट बिकम अ ब्राह्मण बिकॉज ऑफ बर्थ अलोन। ग्रेट सेजेस लाइक ऋष्यशृंग, विश्वामित्र एंड अगस्त्य stand as illustrious examples of people who, though not born as Brahmins, became Brahmins by their penance, virtues, and attainments. It is said in the Puranas that Mahidas, the author of क्षत्रिय ब्राह्मण, ये अलग है ब्राह्मण, ये अपेंडिक्स है वेदों का, which became a द्विज was the son of the Shudra woman Jabal, who had
जवाला
no father. Jabala, who had no father to be named, was initiated into the Brahmin group by his guru through the Upanayana ceremony. These things were possible only because they had recognized the limitations of the inherited talents and had made the system elastic and catholic in outlook. Thus, it was possible for the system to last for centuries. The changed situation. Today, the situation has changed completely. The changed situation demands changes in our way of thinking, also in keeping with the times. Those were the days when every student had to learn his lessons at the residence of his teacher. Then the printing press had not been invented. The machine age had not set in. The blacksmith's son, the jeweler's son, or the weaver's son used to learn his trade by observing his father at work. The home was his school. Hence, heredity and environment cooperated with each other in teaching the individual his profession. But now, the printing press has come. Education is imparted in educational institutions, not in homes. The machine age has made the industries to be carried on in factories, not in homes. Science has progressed, new inventions have been made, the whole environment has changed. It is now recognized by one and all that though heredity is important, environment also has its effect role in the shaping the human character. Therefore, it is inconsistent with the demands of modern times to insist on the hereditary varna and caste system. एक मिनट चार्जिंग लगा रहा चार्ज को लगा रहा Importance of environment. Some people attach great importance to the differences arising out of natural and hereditary factors to an extent their contention is true. But to make these differences into a science is simply ridiculous. It is definitely not to the credit of man if he were to make efforts only to substantiate the hereditary disparities in individuals. His effort should be to study nature's processes and devise ways and means for lessening these disparities and making them tolerable. Therein lies his greatness and his courage. Keeping in mind the limited importance of heredity, we should, by changing the environment and imparting education and training and inducing suitable systems, try to remove any hereditary defects and handicaps in any section of the society. This is possible in the present times. The Japanese people were considered to be dwarfish in stature, but after the Second World War, they came into close contact with the Americans. Appreciable change took place in their eating and drinking habits, as also in their general style of living. As a result, their average height has now increased. Before the First and Second World Wars, only certain groups of people in one country and also other countries were termed martial races. But during the two wars, total mobilization and conscription had to be resorted to in all the countries and huge armies were raised. It was then observed that all these people fought better than even the professional soldiers, better than even the standing armies. Nobody accepts the notion of martial or fighting races anymore. Hence, it is now futile to try to give heredity a philosophical basis. In fact, circumstances have changed so much that even to say the Varna Vyavastha and caste system, which could serve as a necessary basis for the proper functioning of the society exists is ridiculous. Perversion and confusion pervade the atmosphere. Castes no doubt exist, but they have nothing to do with the perversion of the social fabric. Caste is not confined only to marriage alliances, it exists only in the form, the spirit having disappeared long ago. What exists now is not Varna Vyavastha but only Avyavastha. Hence, we should all put our heads together and think out how to guide it. A system which has to die and is already dying a natural death along the correct path to its termination. Hasten slowly. There is in vogue a phrase roti beti vyavahar. In the olden days, even the roti vyavahar, that is partaking of food, was restricted to within the caste. That restriction has, however, broken down, and nowadays people of any caste have started partaking food with any one another. The credit for such a change is shared by English education, the Junka Vakar Sangha, community diners, and social workers taking to that task specifically, etc. RSS also deserves some credit on account of its camps and other congregational programs. This has subscribed greatly to the easing of disparities among different castes. Intercaste marriages have also begun taking place. It can be said without reservation that if the Beti Vyavahar, just like Roti Vyavahar, also takes place in great measure, it will help to a very great extent in wiping out caste differences and bringing about homogeneity in the society. However, Beti Vyavahar intercaste marriages are a more difficult proposition than intercaste dinners. Keeping this in mind and without making unseemly haste, all should conduct themselves in a congenial manner. The reason is as soon as the idea of marriage comes up, the question of a good match naturally crops up. Anyone cannot marry indiscriminately anyone else. It can be a good match if only the bride and the groom can claim near equality in educational, economic, and social standards. This is possible only to the extent that residences are close together, encouraging the habit of close contact with one another. Residential colonies like the LIC colony, the bank employees colony, the railway workers colony, and the teachers colony, coming up in good numbers nowadays, subscribe substantially towards this end. Along with this, when their economic status also rises, irrespective of caste differences and education becomes universal, then such marriages also become natural. Legislations, monetary temptations, propaganda tactics cannot bring this about. That would be wrong. For this is a delicate matter which cannot have a rough and ready solution. Every one of us has to keep this in mind and subscribe his might towards bringing about the social transformation. The changeover may take time, but it is bound to take place. Root out this evil. Untouchability is still more saddening and unfortunate aspect of our social inequality. Some thinkers opine that it was not existent in the olden days, but at some stage during the passage of time, it gate crashed into our social system and took root. Whatever be its origin, all of us consider that untouchability is a terrible folly and it must, of necessity, be thrown out lock, stock, and barrel. There are no two opinions about it. Abraham Lincoln, who abolished slavery in America, said, if slavery is not wrong, then nothing is wrong. Similarly, it is for all of us to declare, if untouchability is not wrong, then nothing in the world is wrong. Every one of us must therefore aim at eradicating social inequality in each and every form. We must clearly explain to the people at large how our society became weak and disorganized on account of social inequalities. We must also show them the way to get rid of them. It is necessary that every individual must make his or her contribution in this effort. That would remove a stumbling block in the way of Hindu consolidation. Success through persuasion. In this task of bringing about social equality, we should be able to win over the support and cooperation of various types of people. We should, for that purpose, conduct ourselves with restraint and grace. Then only we will be successful. There are our religious leaders, saints, sages, and scholars. They hold a sway over the popular mind. Their cooperation in this task is essential. Sometimes we feel that they are firmly attached to only the old customs and would not like to see them changed. However, this should not make us mistake their good intentions. In other countries too, there are religious teachers pinning their faith on ancient systems. Nevertheless, the people they Do not ridicule them on that account. There. We too, with proper approach, could plead with our religious leaders that they should, in their preachings and discourses, tell the people which facets of our dharma are of eternal value and which of them changeable according to the times, and that such an exposition on their part would be more impressive and pervasive in its effect. We should also submit to them that the responsibility of protecting the society is there and that it can be discharged only by their coming out of their ashrams and mutts and unreservedly mixing in the society. Though this approach is as an uphill task, actually it is not so. Fortunately, there are already auspicious indications that our Dharma Gurus have started working in this direction. Our late Rasangachalak Param Puja Shri Guruji has had brought together on a common platform under the auspices of Vishwa Hindu Parishad all the religious leaders to persuade them to this viewpoint. As a result, many saints and religious leaders have commenced mixing among all sections of society. They have given up their previous opposition to reconversion and have now come forward to take back into their fold those brethren of ours who had been converted. The enlightened section of our society has a great responsibility in this regard. They should so think and act as will help achieve equality and at the same time not give rise to bitterness in society. Those who suggest solutions to the problem should also keep in mind the dangers that may result from such solutions. Upayam chintayan prajnah apayam api chintayet. While thinking about the desired outcomes, also think about the inadvertent consequences. We want equality only for the purpose of establishing in the society an atmosphere of goodwill, harmony, and mutual cooperation. Those that speak, write, or act without understanding this basic viewpoint will only harm the purpose they wish to serve. The right approach. Many times, some particular section of society is made the target of stinging attack. It is highly improper to disgrace or to demoralize any part of a society. Maintaining their morale, examples of new and better social behavior should be placed before them. Unfortunately, there are still some people in a society who believe in discrimination and are unable to grasp the right attitude. In the final analysis, they are all a part and parcel of the Hindu society. It is not necessary that we should pounce upon such people or tackle them the hard way. There are certainly other ways of persuading and bringing them around. This was the way Revered, Reverend Dr. Hedgewar, the founder of the Sangha, worked. I had the good fortune in my young age to work under his guidance. In the beginning stages, we had very interesting experiences. I was present in the first Sangha camp, in that there were quite a number of Mahar, untouchable brethren. At the time of meals, some began hesitating to sit along with them. They had never before in their life sat for meals with the Mahars. They placed their problem before Dr. G, but he did not enforce the discipline of the camp and asked them to get out. Dr. G simply said, "Our practice is to sit together, we shall sit accordingly." All of us sat together for meals. Those few that were hesitant sat in a separate line. But for the next meals, those very people came to Dr. G and apologized and sat with us on their own accord. If Dr. G had taken disciplinary action against them at the very outset and sent them out of the camp, they would not have been transformed. A very instructive episode concerned my late friend Sri Bacharaj Vyas. He was a Swayamsevak of the Sangha Shakha of which I was the Karyavaha. Having been born in a highly orthodox family, he would not come even to my house for meals. When he first attended a Sangha camp, taking meals posed a problem for him. He could not partake the meals prepared and served for all. When I placed this problem before Dr. G, he did not quote any rule of the camp and prevent Sri Bacharaj from attending the camp since he was certain that the this desired reformation would definitely take place in him. He knew Bacharaj was a man of great caliber and utterly selfless At heart, he told me, let him come to the camp. We shall give him the utensils and the ration. Let him cook his own food. Thus it was for the first year. The next year, Sri Bacharaj himself said to Dr. G, I shall take meals with the rest. Thereafter, as he involved himself more and more in Sangha work, as you all know, his behavior underwent a metamorphic change in spite of all orthodox background. He became a trusted worker of the Sangha and served as the provincial organizer of the Sangha in Rajasthan. Later, he even became the All India president of the Bharatiya Jana Sangha. Beware of this game. Many times at the root of the internecine quarrels
मैं
and
पढ़ लूँ क्या?
violent हाँ
लूँ?
पढ़ो ना
मैं पढ़ लूँ? ठीक है।
चलिए
हाँ, ठीक है। थक गया लगता है अब, तो इसलिए मैं पढ़ने दूँ। Beware of this game. Okay. Many a times, at the root of the internecine quarrels and violent conflict in the Hindu society lie political or personal rivalries. Election clashes, land and family disputes also uh, take up that vicious form. Further, the politician or the interested person give it the color of conflict between two castes just to save his skin and serve his political ends. At such times, unfortunately, many well meaning persons and even the press correspondents, in their ignorance, are made pawns in this game. In particular, pressmen in search of a scoop do not bother to obtain the first hand knowledge of what really happened, but weave out with a single thread of information and give it a sensational headline. When clashes take place between Hindus and Muslims, they are reported as clashes between one community and other, while even petty quarrels among Hindus are magnified and reported in an inciting fashion. This is certainly not desirable. We should all exercise with greatest care and restraint in all our actions if we are to lessen the social disparities. Uh, Criticism but not cooperation. It is a fact that backward or untouchable brethren of ours have borne the quite an amount of misery, insults, and injustice all these centuries. That agony is there in their heart. We are also much pained at this sight. Now we have to find a way out of this. All of us feel that the onslaughts on them are wrong and that they should stop forthwith. Therefore, all the efforts of therefore the efforts of all of us, our talk and our behavior, should be such as to be conductive to the achievement of this goal. I appeal to the oppressed brethren also to exercise this care and restraint. The fault and follies in our society must certainly be criticized. But there are different ways of criticism. When foreigners criticize us, it is with a sense of contempt. But when our own people criticize, it carries an element of pain born out of affectionate concern. Otherwise, if we begin to drag our quarrels of past into the present, we shall be only placing our future in jeopardy. That will only hamper our progress towards equality and harmony. They, the oppressed brethren, should feel that they are also the part and parcel of the same society and shall live as such with the other members of the society. If they stand up shoulder to shoulder with others who have similar ideas and feelings, then the combined efforts of both will make the task much easier and bring out the goal much nearer. In the past, some eminent leaders of the oppressed communities have severely criticized certain caste and certain religious texts. That was necessary at that time in order to draw the attention of people to a certain point and rouse public opinion. An individual must employ a biting language in the beginning stage, but it is not necessary that such tirades should continue forever. Now the times have changed. The actual transformation has to take place now. As such, the responsibility is upon all of us to employ only such language as will help the progress of the change. The self-respectful way. I believe that the backward brethren of ours do not ask for mercy of anybody. They only desire an equal status with others, and that too on their own merit. Since they have been backward all these days, they only want that facilities and opportunities should be provided to them to advance. This desire of theirs is quite legitimate and is for them to decide how long these privileges should continue. In a long run, however, they will have to compete with others and earn an equal status only on the basis of merit. Perhaps they also know this. It is for them to think and strive and chalk out a time bound plan for rising themselves up. A day has to come when all of us will feel equal in our worth and capacities. The real basis of equality. In spite of many drawbacks, the Hindus have their own specialities. They have certain concepts and attitudes with regards to life. Thinkers, the world have considered that this society has established certain great and eternal values of life. If the Hindu society, believing in such specialities and eternal values of life, following them in practice, can stand up united, imbued with spirit of social equality, then alone these specialities will live on forever and prove beneficial to the world at large also. But unfortunately today the Hindu society is weak and disorganized. Dr. Ambedkar felt very much pained that in the society which considers all human beings as children of God, nay, as part and parcel of divinity itself, there should be found a sense of high and low. He also said that there could be no better basis for equality than the basic faith in the existence of common spark of divinity in all human beings. Adopt constructive outlook. The history of our society is a very long one. All these centuries there were absolute freedom of thought and action. As a result, quite a good number of things were written in our text, some of which could even be misinterpreted. If uh, न- नस्त्री स्वातंत्र्य स्वतंत्रता okay Nastri Swatantratahi is quoted to make it appear that women was despised in the society. The saying Yatra Narestu Pujyante Ramante Tatra Devatah, where women were revered, there are the gods, there the gods rejoice, is also available to show that the woman was held in the highest esteem. If one wants to establish unity and harmony in the society, one has to think that what are the concepts which should be picked up from a religious text and from our history, which should be constructive, which would be conductive to the removal of disparities and the consolidation of Hindu society. Many of us feel that Hindus must unite, and that for their unity, the basis can only be social equality. With this conviction, may all of us come forward to make our society united and strong. This is my fervent appeal to one and all.